So one of the areas that I've enjoyed more and more is seeing the coming together of sort of psychological approaches, therapeutic approaches, embodiment approaches, and spirituality. And I want to speak about the nervous system as a really good example about this. Because, all of us got wired up a certain way, depending on the circumstances that we were brought up in, depending on who was our main caregiver. Then our nervous system got wired up to basically adapt and survive and get love in those circumstances. And that was an absolutely necessary thing to happen. In fact, that's the wisdom of the body that happens in that way. And yet for many of us, 30, 40, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, even though our circumstances have completely changed, often we're still living through that paradigm. We're still living like we're still living with that caregiver. And we're approaching life through those lenses. And the first thing is to really acknowledge that and see that. So if we were brought up with somebody who, for example, we had to be very careful around, then we see, actually, I'm still being really careful around everybody. Or maybe we were brought up by somebody who we had to perform in order to get love. And we still see that somehow we're still performing. Everyone we meet, we're still kind of performing. So whatever your thing is, what did you have to do? And to really acknowledge that and to really see that and to bring some real deep acceptance into that, like it wasn't wrong. In fact, there's a perfection in how our nervous systems get wired up. And yet also to begin to see that actually now circumstances, life is different. And this gives the opportunity of exploring ourselves in a different way. Because this is where the encouragement to become more authentic comes in. Maybe you haven't got to people please anymore. Maybe you haven't got to give away your power anymore. Maybe you haven't got to fawn anymore. So the moment you stop doing that, then of course your nervous system is going to have a reaction and a response like, what am I doing? Something is different here to the way that I've been programmed. And your nervous system will probably feel triggered by that, or will feel some kind of fear maybe around that. So then for me, this is where spirituality comes in. Because spirituality is to find that ground inside us of deep inner peace where we can hold the energy of the nervous system but not get completely consumed by it. So it's like that there's a ground of being, there's a ground of presence which is deeper than the nervous system. And if we can align with that, then when the nervous system gets triggered, as we come into a more authentic expression of ourselves, we can then begin to self-soothe. We can then begin to talk to ourselves in a gentle, kind way. And we can begin to kind of champion ourselves. We can really be there for ourselves and say, wow, this is amazing, You are stepping out of a paradigm of being a certain way, and you're stepping into something completely new. It's almost like a new adventure you're stepping into. And that takes balls, that takes courage to do that. So to really validate ourselves. And every time we kind of step out of the old paradigm and we try something new or we try something different, and we see that actually nothing terrible happened. Maybe in our childhood something terrible would have happened. Maybe our very survival depended on being a certain way. But we see now that actually, I was afraid. I was triggered. But I still did what I needed to do to be authentic, and nothing terrible has happened. And again, all of that information, all of that retrieval, it's like all of that is recovery. That's recovery. You begin to recover, retrieve, and really trust in your own deep inner knowing. And for many people, they lost their deep inner knowing. They lost their sense of trust. But to come back to that trust and say, actually, it's okay for me to be in the world as I am. I used to be in the world as something that I thought I had to be, or I used to be in the world in a way that I thought everybody else wanted me to be. And now I can be in the world as I am. And of course, some people are going to resonate with you, and some people aren't. Some people are going to like you, and some people aren't. You know, get over it. That's life. But the main thing is that you will not be abandoning yourself. You will not be becoming inauthentic in order to get your needs met vicariously through others. And that's worth a lot. In fact, for me, that's worth everything. And maybe we end up with just a few people around us, right? We might end up with just a few people around us, maybe a handful of people. But those people, we really know that we can be ourselves. We really know that those people love us for who we are. And, you know, there's just such a healing in that. There's such an incredible healing in that. So, summary, where psychology and spirituality meet. Self-soothe the nervous system. Begin to become curious about how your nervous system is responding. How does your nervous system respond in conflict, for example? How does your nervous system respond when you've got a different opinion to other people? How does your nervous system respond when love comes into your environment? So all of these things, they will be representations of how your nervous system got wired up when you were developing. And deeper than that, can you find the peace within you which can allow for your nervous system to react and respond the way it's been wired up and the way it's protecting itself, and yet be able to hold that and bring love, peace, and a sense of acceptance to that? And for me, this is where spirituality and self-development meet. And this is why, for me, it's so important that we have both. Because one without the other, for me, something is incomplete.